Welcome into the Irish Squad Show. Joe George post-game host, and it's official. Marcus Freeman, he's staying home.
You got to love it, baby. National championship, get ready because here come the Irish.
And I'm Allison Hayes, covering the Irish for more than 20 years. And this year's transfer portal, I think Notre Dame is going to be one of the top destinations for guys looking for a new home.
Play like a champion today. It's the Fighting Irish Squad Show. Everything Notre Dame Fighting Irish every week. Breaking down the biggest news and game-changing plays the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Wake up the echoes. The Fighting Irish Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Irish Squad Show here on the Locked On Irish YouTube channel and audio platforms. Joe George, Reggie Brooks, and Allison Hayes here with you today. And we're going to talk a lot of transfer portal, and we will, but the story has changed for the day as it is official that Marcus Freeman is staying at Notre Dame for at least 2026, a reworked contract. To be honest, guys, I saw this tweet from Marcus's Twitter account. He said 2026 running back. I wasn't even sure it was him. He tweets so he doesn't tweet enough for me to believe this is an active Twitter account. And then all the reports started coming in. But Marcus Freeman says no to the NFL. Specifically, it feels like the New York Giants is going to stay as the head coach at Notre Dame. Allison, let's get your reaction first. I think we've all been waiting for this, but now that it's official, what are your thoughts?
Well, this was something that we talked about on the show maybe 2 weeks ago, and it was, how concerned were we that Marcus Freeman might leave for the NFL, specifically the New York Giants? And at that time, and I think we all sort of agreed, I wasn't too concerned. I just never thought that he was going to leave, although I think that the Giants could have been a good fit for him. I know they're big fans of him there. There are several Notre Dame connections within the organization, but I wasn't concerned. I really felt that Marcus Freeman was committed to Notre Dame. I think he is everything that Notre Dame has ever wanted. They've made it clear they want him to be here, and he fits the mold of what fits at Notre Dame as well. And that's by design. I mean, he's made changes within himself, within his coaching style, within his personal beliefs, his Catholicism, all of those things. He's done those. He's intentionally made those changes, those moves to better solidify himself here at Notre Dame. And when you look at him as a coach and his style of coaching, the way he interacts with his players, he fits the mold for a great college coach as well. Maybe not so much for the NFL. It's just two totally different worlds. But right now, what seems to be Marcus's strength is his connection to the players. Those guys and Notre Dame fans as well would run through a brick wall for Marcus Freeman, but he also has sort of that father figure role for them as well. And I don't know that you're going to see that as a need or a necessity in the NFL, but in college and very specifically at Notre Dame, that works. And so I was not surprised by the news, but I am very, very happy. And one last thing we all have to worry about working in media is having to follow a coaching search. I've been through a lot of those at Notre Dame. From when I first got here, it was Tyrone Willingham, went through the Charlie Weiss era, went through the Brian Kelly era, then now we're in Marcus Freeman. It's tough when you're running through all those coaches and all the names get popped up. So it's a relief in that sense. And I think the sky's the limit for Notre Dame. When you look at 2026 and what's on this roster and their schedule and all of those pieces, I think Marcus Freeman knows that he's got a really, really good chance at making a deep run and maybe a chance to win a national championship next year. So I'm not surprised he's staying, but I'm certainly glad that he is.
Well, I look at it and it's just, you talk about fit, and I just never saw. I mean, be honest with you, I was nervous because there was a lot of chatter out there. I mean, it got progressively more, intense over the weeks. And, and I should have known, like I said, Notre Dame likes to keep, play their cards close to the chest and close to the vest and, kind of like downplay it. But there was really nothing coming out. I mean, outside of what Pete Bavacqua said early on, hey, Marcus is our guy. We're going to do what we want to do. It. When he said that, we're going to do what we need to do to keep him here. And, Marcus is happy. And that was some time ago. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see that. But, there's, everyone has a price, but it always struck me about Marcus was the fact that he wasn't focused. I've never seen a coach. He doesn't focus on money. He focuses on, again, like you talk about relationships, that connection. And again, that fits at the college level, because when you transition to the pros, and, I've mentioned this a little bit, when you kind of lose that camaraderie and that connectedness, that brotherhood that you have at the collegiate level, it's a completely different story at the NFL level. I mean, and it's a bit of a shock, but you have to understand that, these coaches, and we've seen it at the NFL level, and we're starting to see it a little bit at the college level of, the mercenary aspect of it. But I just think, again, Notre Dame fits Coach Freeman. Coach Freeman fits Notre Dame because he believes in family. He believes in that connectedness of the program. And, and again, people don't really pay a lot of attention to it, but his support of, him transitioning to Catholicism, been down that road. Again, he's all in. But not only that, his commitment to the other sports at Notre Dame, his support of the other sports, that is very rare. I mean, again, I know there are other head coaches, again, with the prominent programs that, like football, they'll do that. But how often do you hear, again, and it's not something that he's putting out there, he just shows up at, soccer games and, lacrosse games and basketball and other sports. And it's genuinely to show the support for the other programs, because he understands what that's like. And he also understands that, hey, I don't think he thinks this way, but hey, this is what I'm supporting in my coaching and my program, because they're doing it from a financial standpoint. But he's taking it to another level, and he's supporting it from a personal standpoint. And that's he's just a different guy, and every time I talk to him or engage with him, he just strikes me. And again, young dude. This is a young, 39. And he has such energy, and his people just gravitate to him automatically. So I was nervous about that aspect of it, because he would go, and I think he'd have success. I think he would have his growing pains, but he's one that adapts quickly, in his situation. And he's just one of those individuals that is very rare at that young age to have that perspective of what matters. And, I think, people talk about, and I hate bringing up other coaches, but like Lane Kiffin, I mean, how bad was that in terms of, media perception and, how he came up? And again, Coach Freeman, similar situation. I mean, they were coming hard at him, and he made a decision, not about money, because when you saw that contract, and again, I have no qualms about, him taking the money at LSU, but just it's how you do things, how you transition. And, Coach Freeman never allowed the noise to infiltrate the program. And that's something that, for him to be able to do that is a rare feat, but it also speaks to the type of human being that he is, the person that he is, and the program that he's pulling together. And the one thing that really struck me was, you heard a lot of the noise outside of Notre Dame. But, some places, you have a little tension within the program. Never saw that. Never saw any fractures there. Guys, like I said, was his players support Coach Freeman, the other coaches. That's a rare commodity. And all I'm saying is, like, hey, let's get ready for that. We have another gate, right? We have another gate at the stadium that we can for the statue, the national championship coach gate. Let's get ready for that. Let's get ready for that.
Yeah, it's a couple of things you said there. And first, one thing I want to add to Pat Forty, we know Marcus Freeman signed 6-year contract last year. Pat Forty is reporting from On3 Sports that there's another year added on to that deal, and this contract is going to put him in the top tier of highest paid coaches in college football. which if he wasn't, he already should have been. So I think they just gave him even more money to keep him in that top tier even more. It's all well deserving. And you mentioned Reggie, like he's 39. This is not going to be his last opportunity to coach in the NFL. This is the right time, I think, to stay at Notre Dame. What's happening in college football, it's changing a lot, but he's got this program heading in a direction that's going to win a national championship. I think he's going to have that chance to win a title, and I think he's going to win one at Notre Dame. And the NFL jobs will come down the road. And we were talking before the show started, like, I don't know if the Giants job is a great job for him right now. Like Jackson Dart can't stay out of concussion protocol. They didn't fire their GM. It's a weird spot. Like maybe there's a job he's eyeing in the NFL down the road, but I think this is a great move from Marcus Freeman. Like to me, the only concern at this point is if Ryan Day ever leaves Ohio State. Yeah. And even then, like he's here. Like it's clear Marcus Freeman loves Notre Dame. And that's what is so great about this hire is it's not Brian Kelly, who clearly didn't really like Notre Dame. Like Marcus Freeman loves this program, and it's awesome to have that.
I think Brian Kelly liked Notre Dame in the beginning. I was here for that. I was here for his entire stretch. But what's funny is in hindsight is you start to see these things because one thing that Brian Kelly was really good at, and Reggie, you know this, I mean, he was very media savvy. He, knew how to work the room. He knew how to say whatever he needed to say. And he was a showman in that sense where he could really, manipulate and handle kind of the narrative. But you started to see things slip. And in that final season, they started out with a game against Florida State and pulled out a win. But he started getting flack about, different things he was saying. And then his face, he blows up and he would get so angry. And in years past, he would be able to kind of joke that off, or he would, kind of whatever off the back. And that final season at Notre Dame, there was no more joking. He was very, very tense and you almost felt stressed. And even more so than, in that, what year was that? 2016, they had that terrible losing season. Even then, he was able to kind of roll with the punches. And so while it felt like it was out of nowhere when Brian Kelly left, in the moment of, and then being able to look at it in hindsight, it was like, okay, he was, by that year, he was over it and he was done. And he made it very clear he was unhappy when he then left, and a lot of it had to do with the facilities, and I think more so, if anything, the relationship maybe with Jack Swarbrick. But to piggyback off of that, with Marcus Freeman, it's been almost the exact opposite, where Pete Bavacqua has been, championing his coach. He's at the forefront telling people why he's the right fit, why they love him so much, and they want him to know that he's supported here at Notre Dame, and that they were going to do whatever they had to do to make sure he knew that. And they did that. And so reports are coming out that a new deal has been structured or they've added on to that. And they're making sure that he knows he is valued and they want to keep him here. And he reciprocated on that by, appreciating what they're offering him and turning the other guys down and staying committed to Notre Dame. And that's something we're going to talk about later in the show, is just how different college sports are now, and there's not a lot of loyalty, and there isn't a lot of, as you touched on, Reggie, people wanting to jump ship. They want to transfer out, and so they're taking their shot when they have it. Who knows? For Marcus Freeman, you never know. Does he really want to be an NFL coach? Is this the best opportunity he has to make it a run at an NFL job? I think that, as we just said, I think he's got a chance to really legitimately win a national championship here. And I think there's been years past where we've looked at it that, you're hopeful. I think they could, but a lot of things have to go right. A lot of things would have to go their way. Whereas you really look like at this team this year, as it was playing at the end of the season, I think the Irish could have made a legit run back to the title game. And I think they've got the pieces to be able to do that for next season. After that, things will change and you never know, but I think they legitimately do have a realistic shot at making a run and maybe winning a national championship. So then that's when your stock is at its highest. And then Marcus Freeman, if he wins a national championship at Notre Dame, then he can look at going on to the NFL. But to your point, Joe, Same for me. When I said I wasn't too worried about him leaving to go to the Giants, the only one I'm concerned about him leaving to go for would be Ohio State. And that would be, say Ohio State makes a run and they win a second straight national championship. Then does Ryan Day leave Ohio State? Then a lot of things are going to go haywire and it's going to be crazy in college football. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For right now, Marcus Freeman is in South Bend.
Nice. Well, I appreciate, again, just, the whole dynamics of this, Pete Bavacqua, Marcus Freeman, but it goes beyond that. Ron Powlus, in the work that he's done, because, Ron is like Coach Freeman's right-hand man. I mean, he trusts him implicitly. And you got two guys that have played at this level. And then Ron playing at Notre Dame, he understands the dynamics of it. And you were talking about, Coach Kelly, I think a lot of coaches get enamored with the image of Notre Dame and the perception of what Notre Dame is from the outside. And when you get in there and you're on the inside, you learn, the hard way a lot of times of Notre Dame is Notre Dame, and it's different, and not always in a good way. Mm-hmm. As you look at college athletics, there's a lot of struggle, and there's a lot of back and forth with the administration that a lot of schools don't have. But I 100% support who Notre Dame is, because they've been the same yesterday and forever. And like I said, and it seems to me Coach Freeman, really embraces that. He talks about choosing hard. This comes from if you're going to make that your mantra, I wonder what some of the stuff that young man has been through, to choose hard, because, choosing hard is not just about choosing to come somewhere where you're going to have challenges. Choosing hard is setting a standard for, hey, I'm going to choose hard, but in choosing hard, I'm going to overcome. I'm going to take it to another level. And the thing that I said I want to see Coach Freeman do is, which starts now a little sooner than what we were hoping for, because, the offseason, if you will, the spring season, that's when championship teams are made. You looked at Coach Freeman's track record, those early games of Gotti, that has to be corrected. And that is corrected in the spring. When you have the little things that you do, just seeing them, having more physical practices, but that wasn't going on until the summer. And it's a lot of it is mental more than anything else. Getting these guys to understand the mental aspect of it, because physically you're only going to be as good as your mental aspect. And this is where Coach Freeman has to step it up in that regard to say, hey, I got to get these guys to, end of the season, form earlier. So I'm really going to be interested to see how spring game goes, the spring game goes, and then those summer practices. How intense are they going to be? What kind of mental mistakes are they still making? And I keep going back to when Coach Guidugli made the statement, we're still trying to figure out what we're doing with these guys. That is, I can't get that out of my mind. How do you not know what these guys are capable of? And that was both CJ and Minchie to this point. You're still trying to figure out what their capabilities are? Bro, come on now. That is the worst thing you can say. So, and this is where Coach Freeman comes in. It all, I think this whole situation with Chris Ash was a learning experience for him, and said, hey, this is how, but he's done it. At every turn when he's faced a challenge or difficult, he's done it. Now you got the pieces in place. You got your program going in the direction you want it. Now it's time to tighten up those little things. And I think this is where, at least in my mind, where I see Coach Freeman is this offseason, because you got that chip on your shoulder, because everybody's still talking about, oh, Notre Dame, all they in the Pop-Tarts Bowl and blah, blah, blah. He takes that, he's like, okay, I got a long memory. So come September, we're going to see. And I firmly believe whoever's coming out the gate with, is going to catch one. I mean, he's going to put a 50 ball on him and then say, now what?
Honestly, Reggie, I think the whole season is going to be like how they treated Syracuse, like how they were worried about style points at the end of the year. Like I'm
from the beginning.
Yeah, like Lambeau Field taking on Wisconsin, first game of the season, like just embarrass them. It's embarrass them, make Wisconsin regret not making a coaching change. Like that's the way I want that. That's how every game should go. Like you play Rice, you play Purdue, like this. We know the schedule's not good next year. Like it's not like there's no excuses next year to not have a bye in the first round of the playoff if the format stays as it currently is. And I think the expectation for me for next year, for what you mentioned, Reggie, is like with the slow start, Notre Dame should be one of the best teams early in the season because their quarterback position is secure. They're going to be one of the only teams that, like, you've got your quarterback going into next year. They should, I think, easily walk through their schedule next year outside of Miami and BYU. Like, it's just not that challenging next year.
Let me ask this question to you, especially Reggie. So you've been a player and you've been there, because that was one of the things that I was disappointed that Notre Dame chose not to play in the bowl game, because I wanted them to have those extra practices, to have that extra time with the young guys that are coming in. There's a ton of early enrollees coming in this year, which I think is a record maybe for how many are coming in. How much do those practices give you an advantage for the spring when you're saying this is a really important pivotal spring for this team? Does it hurt the team that they're not having those extra 10, 12, however many bowl game practices that they could have had?
I to a degree, yes, but I understand the mindset of the team, because again, you look at the bowl games, and again, it's not the same team, because it was never going to be the same team, because you're going to have how many opt-outs of just players opting out of not playing. And that was kind of the point that was made. It's like, this is not going to be the same team, because you're going to have a lot of guys that said, hey, I'm going to opt out of playing in this bowl game because getting ready for the NFL. Some are getting ready to jump in the portal. So you lose quite a bit. And again, you also risk quite a bit with potential injuries against, in a game that, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter. I mean, the bowl system is horrible. I'm sorry. And why they keep trying to prop it up is beyond me. If you get to a point, and also the whole, you got the New Year's Six, and when did the Peach Bowl become so great? I don't know. I mean, I get the orange, cotton, rose, sugar, and to a degree, Fiesta. I mean, those were games like that. Yeah. But Peach Bowl? Really? I mean, I'm sorry. I'm nothing against the Peach Bowl. I'm sure it's a lovely bowl, but how was this New Year's Six deal? And you saw how dynamic, just from also if you saw with the home games being on campuses. Is that a bad thing? Can you not keep that going? I'm not understanding, other than, I don't even know what deal are they what kind of money are they making at these bowls that you're still doing this?
Right.
I can see having the national championship at a location that you bid it out for. 100% agree. But these bowls they serve no purpose, at least in my mind.
Or even the semifinals, maybe the Final Four or something. Yeah. Those are the four big ones. But yes, and agreed. And as someone who went to all of those games last year, I went to every single round, every away. And then every person that I spoke with that went, everyone said, oh, I'm holding out until they make it to the national championship, because it wasn't worth all of the expense, all of the hassle. I mean, it was exciting. It was amazing to be there for it. But it was like, if you have to pick and choose, then you're holding out for it. You're like, I don't want to spend that money to go to the Sugar Bowl if there's a chance they're going to make it to the national championship, and then I got to try to spend for that too, So that part of it, I think it's hurting the overall fan experience of what we've been accustomed to with college football. And it's just so much money in corporate and business that it's just hurting the overall product.
Yeah, I am glad a little bit we don't have to see a Notre Dame helmet with Pop-Tart sprinkles on it like Georgia Tech and BYU had over
That
the
one did
weekend.
become a bit of like a clown show a little bit. It was more about the Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it was.
Did y'all see the video of the swag bag?
No.
Oh my
Is it
God.
just all Pop-Tarts?
Yeah, they put Pop-Tarts on everything.
I
The
mean,
watch, the slip, the shower slippers, the robe. And I'm looking at this, it's like, have you seen their logo? Why would you want that on anything?
well, it's like what do you do with it as a player? Like
Right.
it just
Yeah.
gets thrown out, right? Or
You
like it
give
goes
it
to
to
mom and
Are
somebody.
you
dad.
giving
Your
like,
mom.
you re-gifting that to
Yep.
somebody?
Yeah.
You are not sporting that.
No.
You are not sporting none of that. And it was such a huge logo. Pop-Tarts bow. Like, ugh. That's
All right.
not a good look.
The timing of Marcus Freeman announcing his staying is important, not just for the future of the program, but also for the immediate future of the program, because the transfer portal opens up in 3 days. We'll take our break here. Let's discuss what that means today, means for the portal going forward, who's leaving, who you want to see come in, all of that, and just how broken that transfer portal system is. We'll get to that next here on the Irish Squad Show. Today's episode is brought to you by Rugiet. Let's talk about something that most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rugiet Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rugiet Ready is a next generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rugiet Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in one mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch, and most men are ready in about 15 minutes on average, so you can stay present, confident, and in control when the moment is right. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now it's the time to head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your first order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. All right, so the portal opens up January 2nd. It's a smaller list for Notre Dame than most schools, I would say. I mean, some of these colleges, like you see, it's 20 guys are heading into the portal. And these lower level schools, like I saw James Madison, someone tweeted out their roster. They have 2 guys returning from their offensive, their starting 11, either to the pros or to the portal. Their best player, Wayne Knight, the running back, just entered the portal. So Notre Dame's a little luckier on that. But Allison, as you were looking at who's going into the portal for Notre Dame, what stood out to you from that list?
Well, before the show started, we were sort of rattling off this list of guys from Notre Dame who entered. And just to rattle those off to you listening, quarterbacks, Kenny Minchie and Anthony Rizek. I was surprised. I didn't realize that Anthony had entered into the transfer portal, but I think it's clear we all know CJ is the guy moving forward, and Blake Hebert must have made some major strides behind Anthony. So he's going to be that number 2, although I wouldn't be surprised if we see Notre Dame try to pick up a solid number 2 in the transfer portal. Other guys that left, Gibran Payne. I was disappointed to see Payne go. He's a running back. But really the biggest area, and Notre Dame will have to address that in this transfer portal go around, is at the defensive back position. They've got cornerbacks Carson Hobbs, Chance Tucker, and then safeties Jadon Blair, Benny Powell, and Ben Minich all leaving and entering into the transfer portal that opens on the 2nd. And so that's the spot where there's that immediate need. I mean, obviously you've got Leonard Moore back, who's possibly the best in college football, and he's back. But you do, and there's a lot of young guys, there's a lot of young talent and guys that are coming in, but you want to have some guys with some experience there. So that's where I think we're going to see that biggest need, and some players to kind of look out for. Just some names that could be of interest. Former Nittany Lion, AJ Harris. He was a former 5-star recruit, and a guy like Auburn's Kalen Lee, he was recruited by the Irish in high school. So that could be a guy that they might go after. But I think it speaks a lot that in this cycle, there's not a ton of guys transferring out. And that's because I think all of the above, a lot of the stuff we've talked about today. Marcus Freeman is staying. They see the trajectory of this team and the possibilities that there are for next season, but also the way Notre Dame is getting tons of guys playing time and experience. Even when there are the stars and the starters, they're still making guys getting into that rotation and getting them quality minutes, quality opportunities out there. And then when there are injuries, those guys are able to step up and have their moment. And so I think that might be what's different this year. You know, in years past, you'll have a ton of guys entering and everyone freaks out. Oh my gosh, even last year, a lot of guys entered the portal and it's like, oh, what's happening? Why is everybody leaving? But it's just, that's a part of college football now. I don't think it necessarily means that there's a problem if you've got a ton of guys in there, but this is a very small list. We could see a few more before January 2nd, but that's a very realistically small list. It's manageable, and there's not a ton of like major concern areas that Notre Dame needs to address. We can talk more about it, but one spot I think they're going to be looking for is defensive tackle. That's the one where I think they're a little bit light on experience, and we'll see some guys maybe getting some good depth there. And then of course, wide receiver. This is going to be one of those places that players are dying to come and play and have a quarterback like CJ Carr to throw to them.
Well, again, when you look at it, I'm not concerned with the guys that are leaving because there's a lot, more young guys than anything. I mean, outside of Jabron Payne, which I'm not necessarily because he wasn't. I mean, you had guys that jumped him, and you really hadn't seen anything. His playing time never really increased. And I really think, again, they feel Kendron Young is going to come and, be that, Neas Williams, tandem. But then they have those young guys coming in. The one kid from Texas that, I think he's 4 or 5 star. They look, feel pretty good about him. And like I said, I'm a big fan of the running backs coach. I think he's doing a heck of a job because you watch how those guys play. And again, they're spreading the ball around. It's not like you're just dealing with one guy. So running back, and Jabron's a redshirt junior, so he's going to get it. He'll have his degree, and he, is a good enough back that he can get somewhere and get some playing time to, fulfill that dream. And that's how I look about him. Kenny Minchie. I mean, yeah, that makes total sense that he's like, hey, I'm not the guy, so I'm gonna go try to find somewhere else. We saw the success that early on, when Angeli left, that it was a better move for them. Carson Hobbs, another one of those guys again that just was losing time. I mean, he wasn't getting the time, and again, you had other guys that were stepping up, and now Chance Tucker. I mean, he's redshirt senior. I don't understand. I mean, he wasn't playing, so I'd be honest with you, I don't know where he's going to go. I mean,
yeah,
at this point and fit in. The biggest one that kind of surprised me or was like, didn't like was Jadon Blair.
Yeah,
because I mean, the kid
6'5",
the kid can flat out play that one. But I understand again, because he had guys in front of him that were playing, but man, that's the one that's like. Can you kind of come back? Maybe
come battle a little.
Yeah,
bit. They can. Well, and they can. Like I saw someone like 4 of the 5 LSU offensive linemen have entered the portal, and they expect all of them to go back to LSU with new NIL deals. And sometimes it's just like it's NIL leverage now, and like it could be the same situation here where it's like they leave, but yeah, they go in the portal, but then they just go back to where they came from, and it's. If someone goes to the portal, like they can still stay at Notre Dame. So like if they go out there and they test the market and there's no market for them, they can go back and like you can bring them right back. And it's just like NFL free agency now.
I'm sorry, I got a little problem with that. I'm sorry.
I don't blame you
because I'm looking at it like and Kirby Smart said it. He's like, if a guy's not willing to compete, he's telling me you don't want to be here. But also, wherever you go, I want to schedule that team because you're bringing in a guy that doesn't want to compete, and I don't mean with like he doesn't strike me as that kind of kid. And again, neither is Kenny Minchie because he battled. came up short. And again, there's going to be opportunities for him elsewhere, especially at the quarterback position. So I'm just leery of guys that have made multiple jumps. And I agree with you, Allison. I want to see what we do at the defensive tackle position. We need depth. We have depth on the offensive line, and we've seen the success that's brought us, but we've got to get some depth. That we lost quite a bit at the defensive line to guys, that are going on to the next level, have an opportunity to go to the next level. But that's an area where it's critical because, and I will continue to beat this drum. It always starts with the guys up front on both sides of the ball. I mean, if you look at Georgia's defense, everything is predicated off of those guys down the center of the defense. And it starts with the defensive tackles and their ability to stop the run and then get pressure and get push up the middle. And so I'm more concerned. I'm less concerned with what we're losing than I am what we're picking up out of the portal. That is going to be key. And I like, again, now that we got the Coach Freeman thing solidified, I think, they can go out and say, hey, told you we were all good. Now, come on, let's go play. Because guys know to say, hey, man, you still have the Notre Dame brand. And again, the people can get pissy all they want about it. It's still a big brand, and it still draws names, and it will still benefit you down the road. If you work it properly. So I'm more concerned about the portal of who we're getting as opposed to who is leaving. I do feel the secondary again that Jadon Blair, that one, I just dang it. So but I feel we're in a great position from a transfer standpoint because you got your coach, you got some, your offensive line is in great shape. And I think we're in pretty good shape from a receiver standpoint. I mean, you could definitely, look to grab a few more guys, but I think they did, and we kind of forget about the recruits that were coming in.
Right.
But, and that, to your point, Al, you mentioned you got a lot of guys coming in. Now, it would have been nice to get them in so they could have participated in the bowl. Is that correct?
No, but they could have practiced. They couldn't have played, okay. But they could have practiced.
I'm not very versed in these rules because they change every year. But I mean, outside of that, that was the only thing I think was just could we have like gone and then no, that would have been bad. I was gonna say let's go and say we're going to the bowl game. Then it's like at the game time, it's like we're good. We can't make it. Sorry,
you got the flu.
No, can't do that.
The entire team.
Yeah, I think you mentioned. You mentioned wide receiver, like right before we started, before we went live. Cam Coleman, who has 1,300 receiving yards, I think it is, and 13 touchdowns in 2 years at Auburn. He's going to be the number one player in the transfer portal. He just entered today. That's the one that I think fans are going to be the most interested in because it's like this big name brand wide receiver that's available, and you're losing Pauling and Fields to the draft, or their careers are over at Notre Dame. So you're not losing other guys, but I do feel like there's a big ticket item you can go get. And you mentioned Alice, like you have CJ Carr, like you have a quarterback who is going to be probably towards
big body guy.
I got to rewatch his stuff, but he's been pretty good when I watched him at Auburn. But
that's the thing that really, like I said, struck me about Malachi Fields is, like I said, big body guy, good body control, not necessarily a burner, but very physical and he would go after the ball.
That's 6'3",
because that's the key that you want. That's the kind of receiver you need for CJ. CJ is a downfield thrower, and he's going to put the ball where it needs to be. But if you got a guy that's physical enough to, those 50-50 balls become more like 70-30 in favor of the receiver because he's going to put it in a position, down the field where he can go make a play. And that's the thing about having a guy that can do that, which, I think that would be ideal. But it still comes back to you got a quarterback, and I don't think we're going to have a real big problem of attracting, talent, especially with guys that could, with this kid, the way he throws the ball and the way he processes. I do want to see a better understanding of his capabilities from the damn coach coming out of the spring.
I think he should know now. I think he knows now.
If there's a question again and they answered like that, I'm gonna have to choke somebody. I'm sorry. that just cannot happen again. I mean, you saw the difference between him mid-season and early, and again, it was because of the play calling again. And I know our OC really well, good dude, but he handcuffed him right out the gate. We should have beat Miami. We should beat Miami because we relegated and handcuffed our offense. Now those handcuffs are off. Okay, take care of business. We lost against Texas A&M because of our defense. Coach Freeman fixed that. Him and Coach Ash. Like, you got everything you need now. Now the only thing is, don't have those brain farts at the early in the season. Like I said, come out from the word go with the mindset. I'm stepping on the gas. Go to the portal now. When does it open up? You said
January 2nd.
January 2nd. Okay. Go get some dogs and let's go. Go get the dogs and let's go. If this kid from Auburn is a dog, we need to kick the tires and say, let's go. Come on. If you want to come party with us, come on. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do it at the highest level. And the other thing, again, just letting them know, it's like the support system around Notre Dame, still one of the strongest around. And I'm talking about the alumni and the connectedness of the former athletes. And that is, I think, comes into play with, especially with the parents. So, when we're recruiting in the portal, recruit them damn parents. Love the
Reggie's
parents.
recruiting right now. I can tell.
Yes, you better know it. You better know it. Hey, if you want to come, and like I said, if you need to call somebody and hey, got guys that's gonna look out for you after you finish, we got a ton of and we take that very seriously.
Well, Reggie, you talked about, hoping that they come out right out of the gate and they've got their quarterback. They know what they've got in him, and let's put your foot on the gas pedal and let it rip. Well, look at what Mike Denbrock did with year 2 with Jaden Daniels. Year 1 kind of figured it out. Had it, he had some great moments, but not a spectacular season. Year 2, he goes out and Mike Denbrock orchestrated an offense around what Jaden Daniels could do at LSU, and he goes on to win the Heisman Trophy. And people are already talking preseason, and I don't like that. I don't like the early preseason pressures of that, but they are talking about CJ Carr being in the running as a Heisman candidate already. Yeah, well, absolutely.
But the thing of what you love about CJ is like he's not built that way. He's not processing. Heisman. Very similar to Jeremiyah. My process is not about, hey, if I'm going to do what I need to do to be in the conversation, but that's not why I'm doing it.
Right.
I'm doing it because I want to win. And Notre Dame wins, that conversation will take care of itself.
Yep.
Especially at the quarterback position.
All right, there's a couple more things for us to hit on. There's a big news a big story in college athletics that we're going to hit on next that I'm going to present to these guys and get their thoughts on, because it doesn't necessarily affect the Notre Dame football program yet, but it might down the road. Plus, we'll get a quick preview on the college football playoff before we wrap up. It is the Irish Squad Show.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place live bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Their live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up, and you can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
All right, so earlier, I guess it was late last week, the story broke from On3 Sports. I'm going to butcher this kid's name, so I apologize to him. But James Inaji is his name. He was selected in the first round of the 2023 NBA draft. He was traded. His rights were traded to Karl Anthony Towns. The NCAA, Reggie and Allison, has just allowed him eligibility for 4 years to go play college basketball at Baylor. So someone that's been drafted in the NBA, has played pro basketball overseas, they're now saying can go play college basketball. And this is important because, like, we heard it all 3 days of the NFL draft where it's like, could Shedeur Sanders go back to college? Could Quinn Ewers go back to college? And now it feels like that's on the table where a player, Malachi Fields could go in the 7th round of the draft and could go, no, I'm fighting for eligibility, and could go back to college. So, Allison, just that story, like what that means for college sports and your reaction to it.
Well, I love that you're asking me first because look at Reggie's face.
I know. He's puzzled. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's crazy. And it defeats the entire purpose of testing the water. They have an opportunity to test the waters. They have an opportunity to work with various scouts and get evaluated and get real feedback on what their draft stock is. And then you have a choice to make. And it's already crazy. The transfer portal is nuts. And I'll let Reggie have his thoughts, but I do want to come back because I have some stuff I want to talk about with the transfer portal as well. But it's already so out of control. And then we've lost so much of what has made college football so special and college basketball and the amateurism of what college sports are, to now literally be drafted and then you don't get to play as much as you'd like, so you change your mind and now you're going to go back and have all of your eligibility remaining for college. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, what are we doing here? And he's probably going to make more money coming back to college now through NIL than he ever was going to in the NBA. So, I mean, good for him, I suppose. But it's just, what is going on right now? And what has happened to the NCAA? Because it went from one extreme to the other, where they had so much control and too much control. And now it's like they have no control whatsoever. It's just anything goes and whatever anybody wants to do, go for it. And they're just sitting back and watching. I don't understand. They need to do a 30 for 30 on the downfall and the collapse of the NCAA.
So what you're telling me is,
yes,
this guy got drafted and went through that whole process. And did he go to camp? He's
playing pro basketball overseas.
Getting paid, also would have gotten his signing bonus or whatever from being drafted. He got all of that money and was paid, but now is going to come back and be an amateur again.
And to add to this, there are also players who are playing in the G League, the NBA Development League, who are now going to college as well because they went straight from high school to the G League, realized they can't cut it, and now they're going to college. So, there's no more, once you get paid, you're ineligible for college athletics. And this is only basketball so far. But, it's absurd to think that, a kid could go in the 7th round. Does someone go through training camp in the NFL, get cut, and then go, hey, Marcus, can I come back? Why not at this point?
How does this make – I mean, so who made this decision exactly?
Well, it seems like Baylor basically did it independently.
No. I mean, but who's running the asylum here?
Right.
Congress.
What the hell does Congress know about athletics? Again, how fair is that? Because you got a grown-ass man come back playing with kids. So that's okay.
How many years is he removed? Is it just 1 year?
Cooper,
he's 21.
Let's bring Cooper back.
Why not?
Yeah, Cooper could just go back to do. I mean, go ahead. What the hell?
Can Brandon Aubrey come back?
Man, this is really, I mean, why are people legislating stuff they know nothing about? It makes no sense. And do they want to kill college athletics? Is that the whole point here?
I feel like it just goes back to like when Congress told the NCAA that what you're doing is illegal and and players have to get paid, every lawsuit or thing that's going in front of Congress, from the NCAA, they've lost. The NCAA has lost everything. So now it's up to everyone else. Like Diego Pavia and other players are now fighting for a 6th year of college eligibility with no medical red shirt, and they're going beyond what is the standard of college football eligibility. And they're doing it legally. Like they're not going through the NCAA anymore. And the NCAA is just being told, like, what you're doing is wrong. Like you can't stop these kids from playing, which I think is just crazy. Like at some point, like there has to be a stop.
Exactly. But the whole point is like they could have addressed this decades ago, but they chose not to. Again, yeah, with the money that the NCAA is generating, these kids aren't stupid. So if you explain to them, again, this is and I'm kind of pie in the sky mentality, but I really feel if you would have expressed to these young men and women what you're giving, the give and take, and let them make the decision. And I'm talking about, have a stipend system, because my son told me about this kid that wanted to sign at Ohio State, but because he was only 17, his mom said, no, you're going to sign at Tennessee because they got the bigger package. Cam Newton's dad basically sold him. And it's like you're creating this dynamic that kids aren't allowed to be kids anymore. Sport used to be about competing and sportsmanship, and everything now is about money, and it's filtered into the lowest parts of athletics. And what is it going to take to say, I'm not saying go back to anything, but as sports develops, there's a way to manage the revenue aspect of it, but also educate these young men and women about the opportunity. Because then why are these kids going to class? Well, somebody call it, but why do we even have the educational component in there? And you know what that does when you do that and they come back, it doesn't force them. Because why are they coming back? Because they couldn't hack it. Hey, you made the decision. You wanted to go get the money. You wanted to go be Mr. Big Dog or Mrs. Big Dog. Then you got to deal with the consequences. And this is the problem. We're eliminating the consequences because the NCAA, they didn't tuck their tail, because anytime something happens, any legal ramification, they don't have a leg to stand on, because their perspective going into it was ass backwards. Instead of, okay, you talk about what's best for the student athlete. You can't tell me it's best that these young men and women, are basically, pimped out, either by their parents or by school or coach or whatever.
Look at the quarterback at Tennessee last year, with the name. He ended up at UCLA, but he thought, and all the people around him were telling, oh, you deserve more money. You're better than this. You deserve more money. He had a great situation at Tennessee and had agreed upon the dollar amount he was receiving there. And then he went and goes to UCLA, and that was
somebody else got in his ear.
Right.
And this goes back to now all these kids have agents and you have people in their ear that they don't give a damn about their child. And again, I know it's not all parents, but there's a few parents out there that have been, pimping their kids out since they were, in grade school. Because again, sports is money. And if you got a kid that has talent versus, okay, how can I help you develop this talent? But also, how can I help you develop as a human being? And this kind of goes back to the whole Marcus Freeman thing. I'm not speaking about any other coaches and what they do and how they run their program. I'm only speaking to what I know and from what I've seen at Notre Dame under Marcus Freeman. He genuinely cares about these young men and women, and because he goes to support the women's sports. And again, a lot of times everything has gotten so focused in on football and basketball that, the non-revenue sports are just thrown to the side, and they're competing and working out and doing just as much as the men's sports. But again, you got usually two sports that generate revenue: football and basketball. And that's the focus, as opposed to, hey, how can I help build something that's going to help the integrity and the connectedness of this young man or young woman in this sport to their university. And again, we go back, you can even go back to the fan experience. Again, the bowl games is it's only about money. They don't care about the fans coming and going and how they're going to get there. That's your problem. Versus, it used to be fandom. You played for your fans because they were going to support you. And the worst thing I ever saw was watching Notre Dame fans boo Notre Dame and boo the Notre Dame team in Notre Dame Stadium. I'm like, how did we get here? We got here because, again, they just look at these young people as entitled, money-grabbing individuals, and we're letting them do this. At the highest level, Congress is involved in something that they have no concept of, and it's not, you're not going to go back. So all this, I'm going to fix this, no, you're screwing it up even more. Versus, again, come up with a system that will allow, hey, you can pay the athlete, create a stipend system and say, hey, this is what you're going to get, over the course of your free. And in that, you actually educate them on the value of money, what these dollars can do. But not only educate that young man or young woman, educate their parents, educate the grandparents, educate the coaches, and make sure that they're in the room too. Because the one thing it will do, that it'll tell that kid exactly who's pimping them out and who's not, who's got their back and who doesn't. And I remember going to the symposium for rookie symposium for the NFL. I took my parents because you got a lot of kids that, they don't know the difference between, 100,000 and 500,000. There's a big difference. I mean, the number wise, yeah, but there's tax implications that they need to be made aware of. And, is this a one-time payment? How long does this last? Because they ain't telling these parents that. They sure as hell ain't telling the kids this. So you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, hey, let's let you try it out. Oh, it didn't work. Come on back and get some more money to what? To remain a quitter? I'm sorry. What is it teaching? What lesson are you being taught by being allowed to? It's a little too hard for me, so I'm just gonna go back to what's easy.
Well, and to your point on that, Reggie, and this kind of goes back, Joe, to what we were talking about with the transfer portal and all these things that are sort of diminishing what college football has been. And there's definitely pluses and minuses to the transfer portal. But while we were looking this up and I was doing some research on who are some guys that maybe Notre Dame might go after or might target, and these two stood out to me. So possibly if they were looking for another running back who also can play at receiver, there's a guy named Dylan Edwards from K-State who's entered the transfer portal. And then a receiver, Javon Boggs. And that's another. Both of these guys were guys that were recruited by Notre Dame. Now, let me give you the breakdown of Dylan, if you guys remember. He was a Notre Dame commit. He originally committed to K-State. He flipped to Notre Dame. Then he flipped to Colorado. He played one season at Colorado. The very first time he touched the ball, he muffed a punt. And when he got to the sideline, he kicked, I believe, the bench and ended up injuring his foot. He missed 3 games because of that injury and finished out his season at Colorado. Now he's back in the transfer portal. Excuse me. He finished out his season at K-State. Now he's back in the transfer portal. They're saying, oh, maybe Colorado is going to try to bring him back over. Maybe Notre Dame should try to bring him back over. Same with this Florida State wide receiver. So he was originally committed to Ohio State. He flipped his commitment. He then was committed to Notre Dame and then Missouri, then UCF, and then ultimately signed with Florida State. And now he's back in the transfer portal. And I just think that's interesting in this day and age. And I mean, it's just part of what college football is. But if you're Notre Dame, do you go after a guy like that? If you've already had a guy commit and that he flips on you and he decides to go somewhere else, but now he's unhappy there and now he's in the transfer portal again. We're seeing guys that are entering the transfer portal every year. So how do you establish yourself? How do you get on that roster if you don't just walk in the door and you're told, okay, you're our number one guy? They don't want to face any adversity whatsoever. Granted, I don't know Dylan personally. I don't know Boggs personally. Maybe they're great, wonderful guys and they're going to be great fits at Notre Dame. I don't know for sure. But when you see that sort of history, that would be a red flag to me. That would be concerning. And so I just think the dynamic of the transfer portal, I do like that they made the change that there aren't so many windows of opportunity for the transfer portal, but having it be in the middle of the playoff run makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Notre Dame or Alabama or Indiana, these schools should not be focusing on anything except for trying to win a national championship right now. They should not be worrying about what guys are leaving, what guys they got to try to get out of the portal, how they have to recruit still while they're in the middle of making a run. That's the part that I don't like.
Ole Miss. That's
yeah, I mean, the reality is like Trinidad Chambliss could lose to Georgia on Thursday, be in the portal on Friday, and be committed to LSU on Saturday.
Yeah.
Right.
Like instead of trying to focus on like beating Georgia, he could be texting Lane Kiffin. Like you have certain coaches like the new Florida coach has said like I'm not texting anyone from Tulane. I'm not texting a single player. If they enter the portal, cool, we'll talk. But like I'm not asking a player to come into the portal. We're like Lane Kiffin's
that's
not doing
that. That's not the common thing.
That's not the common
right.
thing. It's that's not. Summerall is kind of a one of a kind guy when he's saying that. Also,
but I believe him because
I want to. I
believe him because now I don't know about his coaches, but I believe him because he's that track of going to the mid majors and then developing into the coach to move up. You know, Cignetti Cignetti has been the poster child of, hey, how to do this thing.
Incredible.
And you look at his quarterback, you know, winning the Heisman, how he came across. But even that Fernando Mendoza, he transferred, but he was not like one of those, like you were saying, Allison. Well, I didn't like this, so I'm gonna just go. I don't like this, I'm gonna go. And that kind of takes me back to what Kirby Smart said. I'm gonna help you get out of here because I don't want you here no way. Because you don't want to compete. If you don't want to compete, this is not the place for you. And that's fine. But I know what if you see guys that, and again, a lot of these parents that are just so involved with these kids and they don't know. They don't know. They're just like, hey, they see the money. And, I know some coaches that are at the collegiate level and it is really bad. And it's parents that they're not as concerned with their child other than they can make them money. Sad, but true. And, you talk about, but again, the kid has talent. You got to kick the tires maybe, but do you want that drama? And I know a few guys that Notre Dame didn't recruit because their parents was a bit much.
Makes sense.
And, yeah. So, and it comes back to your program. Would this kid fit in my program? And then, hopefully, and like I said, with going back to this change, this Baylor guy, basketball is different because you can get one guy and it can, change your season. I get that. But at what cost? What is your program's dynamic? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Because when you get a toxic, and again, I think the world of Coach Sanders, but Colorado is kind of toxic because of like I said, the kid that can't go, and how they're using the portal. You don't want to have a whole team that's built through the portal because you don't mesh, and you need that connectedness to build success. Yeah, you may have a couple of players here and there that will shine, but if you look at Colorado, their offensive line, did it ever get better?
Nope.
No. And it lessened their team because that was never addressed properly. And again, you can have these high-level, high football IQ guys, but even the coaching staff, and I've said this before, the one thing I liked about Coach Freeman's staff, those guys actually like being around each other. They communicated, not just the offensive coaches or the defensive coaches, they communicated. And that is a direct reflection of the head coach. People like being around Coach Freeman. The coaches, the players, the families, and he opens that up. The administration, the president of the university loves this man. And it's not by coincidence. So doing this, so basically NCAA does not exist anymore.
Basically.
Just
it's gone.
Yeah. And be okay with that. Like the bowl system should be gone. It's just there as a placeholder. That's what the NCAA is. They're supposed to be, regulating the other sports. They ain't doing a damn thing because they only care about money. And until you get people in there that care about the actual student athletes and get a perspective of, because they're pretty bright young men and women, but what do they need? And again, sometimes kids don't know what they need. You got to kind of help them. And any whim that you're willing to just bend over and give to them, it's not going to benefit them in the long run. So I just find this dynamic of, so college athletics is just going to be non-existent. It's just going to be a farm league for the pros. And if you don't like it, you can just come and go as you please. But I just can't get by. What happened to it being a place of higher learning? Does that not still exist? Is that no longer a part of athletics?
Definitely not the priority anymore.
Yeah, I don't get that. It's like, because I'm sorry, I played in the league for 4 years, and it was gone. And my Notre Dame connections far outweighed any pro connections I had. And after the pros, you're still pretty young. A lot of them, late 20s, early 30s. That's still pretty young in this day and age. And when you don't engage in the collegiate experience, when you lose that, you lose the connectedness that that helps everybody.
All right. That will do it for this episode of the Irish Squad Show. I'm sure next week there'll be some other NCAA disaster for us to discover. But the portal will also be open. So we'll be back with you guys next Monday as we see any early commits come from the portal to Notre Dame, as Marcus Freeman is officially going to be back for 2026 and hopefully for a lot more years beyond that as well. For Reggie Brooks and Allison Hayes, I am Joe George. Thank you for watching and listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give us a like and a review. We will talk to you next week. Peace.